Welcome to Paskvan Podcast. Please like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps this channel. Imagine a world still reeling, profoundly scarred by one global conflict, desperately trying to rebuild, find some kind of peace.
Yeah, a fragile peace at best.
Exactly, only to find itself almost immediately teetering on the edge of another, maybe even more terrifying, ideological war.
The Cold War. Looming large.
Right. Now picture this. The very nations sworn to democracy, to protecting their people from, outside threats. Secretly, meticulously building hidden armies, not just for an external threat, but within their own borders.
Inside their own countries. It sounds incredible, doesn't it?
It really does. And we're not talking about just one country, are we?
No. This was vast. A shadowy network, like an intricate web stretching right across Western Europe.
Its purpose, its scope, its evolution, really. It's been shrouded in secrecy for decades, classified documents, official silence.
So much hidden away.
So think about this chilling idea with us today. What if the forces designed, supposedly to protect you from an invading army?
From the Soviets, presumably.
Yes. What if they were also being quietly used, repurposed maybe, for something far more complex, something unsettling, closer to home? Our mission today, based on the material you've provided, is to try and pull back that thick curtain. We're going on a journey to explore the origins, the evolution, and the haunting legacy of this operation.
The operation known as Gladio.
Exactly. Gladio.
To really get why something like Gladio could even happen, you absolutely have to put yourself back in immediate post-World War II Europe. Picture it.
Devastation.
Utter devastation. A continent shattered. Cities in ruins. Economies wiped out. People just struggling to survive day to day.
Finding food, shelter, the basics.
Absolutely. And the peace after 1945, it felt so incredibly fragile, almost temporary, because almost right away this new threat starts looming.
The Cold War.
The Cold War. The Soviet Union emerges, not just as a victor, but as this huge power with this massive, battle-hardened army occupying Eastern Europe.
And Western leaders were terrified.
Deeply, profoundly fearful. You see NATO forming in 1949, that's a direct response. A defensive alliance.
Trying to counter the threat.
But even with NATO, there was this nightmare scenario. You could almost feel it in the corridors of power. The vision of Soviet tanks.
Rolling west.
Rolling through Germany, through the Fulda Gap, maybe across France into Italy, toppling those fragile new democracies.
And replacing them with communist regimes loyal to Moscow.
That was the fear. Not just a possibility, but seen as an imminent existential threat. And, well, that kind of fear, it can justify almost anything, can't it?
Extreme measures seem necessary.
To some, yes.
Yeah.
And that's crucial. The lines between legitimate defense and, let's say, potentially undemocratic preemptive action, they started to blur very quickly under that constant pressure.
And by climate of fear.
Exactly. That was the fertile ground, the anxious soil, where something like Gladio could germinate.
And it's right there in that context of just overwhelming fear, the possibility of total Soviet takeover, that we find the core idea, the really unsettling precaution, the stay-behind concept. This wasn't just like a minor backup plan, was it?
No, far from it. This was planning for absolute catastrophic defeat on the conventional battlefield.
The premise was stark. If Soviet forces did invade, if NATO armies were crushed,
if governments collapsed or fled,
there would be the secret force that would just stay behind.
They wouldn't retreat, they wouldn't surrender, they'd stay embedded deep within the occupied territory, waiting.
And these weren't regular soldiers in uniform, were they?
Not at all. These were highly trained operatives.
Yeah.
Handpicked, operating totally underground. Complete secrecy.
Their mission wasn't open combat.
No, it was guerrilla warfare. Asymmetrical. Sabotage, assassinations, resistance, making life impossible for the occupiers.
And they had supplies, weapons.
Oh, yes. Hidden caches, assault rifles, silenced pistols, powerful explosives, radios for secret communication, even gold. Stores of gold to finance their operations, keep the cells running.
So they could carry out sabotage, hit infrastructure, target key personnel.
Disrupt everything. Make occupation unbearable. Think of them as Europe's last-ditch insurance policy. Invisible armies, ready to rise from the shadows.
Like ghosts in the machine of occupation.
Precisely. And what's really interesting, and helps explain how sophisticated this was right from the start, is that it wasn't entirely new. Britain's SOE, the Special Operations Executive from World War II.
The experts in covert ops and resistance.
Exactly. They had brutal, hard-won experience training resistance fighters across occupied Europe. So Gladio wasn't starting from zero.
They were using proven methods.
Proving methods, refined techniques, maybe even some of the same experienced people. The lessons learned fighting the Nazis were just being repurposed for a new enemy.
Against the communists.
Yes. Giving it an immediate, ready-made operational edge. And what's really telling, actually, about the urgency of the Cold War is how quickly the big players jumped on this. The CIA, brand new, formed in '47, and Britain's MI6.
They embraced this stay-behind idea.
Absolutely. And started building these networks almost immediately. This wasn't some rogue thing. It was coordinated at the highest levels of Western intelligence.
And the secrecy was paramount.
Total, absolute. These operations were explicitly not advertised, debated in parliaments, or disclosed to the public.
So completely outside normal democratic checks and balances.
Completely. Classified, top secret. Hidden funding flowing through secret CIA channels, training in remote bases, often in the UK or the US, far away from any scrutiny.
And who were they recruiting? This is key, isn't it?
It becomes incredibly important later, yes. They recruited former soldiers, intelligence operatives, standard stuff, but also, and this is deliberate, men with far-right or fiercely anti-communist leanings.
Why them specifically?
That choice, their specific ideology, well, it suggests maybe a deeper agenda right from the start, or at least a willingness to use people whose primary motivation was just intense anti-communism.
And in Italy, this network got a name.
It did. Gladio means sword in Latin. And that name, Gladio, eventually became the sort of catch-all term for all these similar stay-behind networks being set up across Western Europe.
A sword in the shadows.
That's where the mystery and the controversy really gets its name.
So the stay-behind idea is born from this intense fear, but how did it actually look on the ground? How did they build this invisible army?
Well, you have to visualize the physical side of it. Throughout the 1950s, across Western Europe, these weapons caches were being buried, meticulously hidden.
What kind of weapons are we talking?
A whole range. Assault rifles, pistols, tons of plastic explosives, those sophisticated radios we mentioned, even gold. Actual gold bars sometimes.
Gold? For what?
To finance operations underground. Pay informants, bribe officials, keep things running if cut off from outside support.
And where were they hiding this stuff?
Everywhere, really. Deep in forests, hidden in caves in the mountains, stashed in safe houses disguised as normal buildings.
Blending in.
Exactly. Or sometimes concealed on military bases or tucked away in rural barns. Often only one trusted local contact knew, but almost no one else.
So even local police or regional governments might not know.
Often they had no idea. The secrecy was that intense. And here's a fascinating detail that shows how pervasive it was.
Go on.
Decades later, in Switzerland, neutral Switzerland.
Right.
Hikers just stumbled upon one of these hidden arms caches. Imagine finding buried weapons in the Alps.
Wow. Just by accident.
Completely by accident. It was like uncovering a Cold War time capsule, a buried arsenal, a secret history revealed. And that discovery sent ripples through Europe, hinting at something much bigger.
And the training for these operatives, you said it was specialized.
Highly specialized, very clandestine. This wasn't basic training. They learned specific sabotage techniques, demolition, unconventional warfare.
Like
how to derail trains precisely. How to plant timed explosives to take out bridges, power stations, even how to carry out assassinations with silenced weapons under the cover of an occupation.
killing.
Their mission, remember, wasn't open battle. It was to make occupations so costly, so insecure, so psychologically draining.
That the Soviets would never feel safe.
Exactly. Constant fear, disruption, uncertainty for the occupier. Psychological warfare as much as physical. Make conquest a hollow victory. Now, with these hidden armies taking shape, Italy really becomes a focal point. It wasn't just another country, it was a crucial battleground.
Why Italy specifically?
Several reasons. Geographically, it's on that Mediterranean frontier, a vital flank. But domestically, as politics were incredibly turbulent.
Ah, the Italian Communist Party, the PCI.
Exactly. The Partito Comunista Italiano. Not some fringe group. It was huge. One of the biggest communist parties in the West. Millions of members, massive influence in unions, local government.
Especially after the war, with economic hardship.
People were looking for change, radical change. And this presented NATO and Gladio's architects with a massive problem.
What if they won an election?
Precisely. What if Italy swung left democratically? Not by invasion, but through the ballot box. A communist-led government in a key NATO country that could destabilize the whole southern flank.
Potentially pull Italy out of NATO.
That was the fear.
Yeah.
A massive internal challenge. And this is where the story of Gladio in Italy gets darker, more complex.
Beyond just defense against invasion.
That's what critics later argued and investigations suggested. The Gladio in Italy wasn't just about stopping Soviet tanks. It was also, maybe even primarily, about making sure domestic politics never went too far left.
Even if it was democratic.
Even then. So you have to ask, was the real purpose less about Moscow and more about controlling democracy from within, manipulating internal politics?
That's a deeply unsettling question. The first big one about Gladio's true aims, and it wasn't just Italy, was it? You said the spread across the continent.
Oh, yes. By the late 1950s, these Gladio-style networks were embedded in nearly every NATO country, a truly continent-wide invisible web.
Where else?
France integrated its network deep within its intelligence services. West Germany, right on the front line, set up its own units. And here's a really disturbing detail.
What's that?
Allegations later surfaced that some West German units recruited former Wehrmacht, even former SS officers.
Wait, former Nazis recruited to defend the West?
It highlights the extreme pragmatism, or maybe desperation, of the Cold War. Enemies becoming secret allies in the shadows. Deeply troubling compromises.
Unbelievable. And other countries?
Belgium, the Netherlands, Denmark, they all quietly built similar structures. Even neutral Switzerland and Austria had networks, often with CIA or MI6 support, bypassing their official neutrality.
So neutrality didn't matter when the fear was high enough?
Apparently not. And then you had Turkey and Greece, vital on the southern flank, also developing these armies.
But the common thread was resistance, sabotage?
Yes, the shared principle was resist, sabotage, destabilize a Soviet takeover, make occupation impossible. So by the early 60s, Europe is this map dotted with invisible cells, hidden weapons, secret plans.
And almost nobody knew.
Very few outside the intelligence elite. Governments spoke publicly about defending democracy, while privately sanctioning these secret armies, answering only to intelligence services and NATO committees.
A huge gap between public talk and private reality.
A stark, almost dystopian contrast. A deep secret hidden beneath everyday life. Now here's a critical pivot. The Soviet invasion, the one Gladio was built for, it never came. The tanks never rolled.
So these expensive secret networks, what happens to them?
That's the problem for the agencies. And maybe the opportunity. You got this huge investment-trained operatives, weapons, secret infrastructure. Do you just let it sit idle?
Or do you find new uses?
Exactly. Institutional inertia, maybe. Or just the temptation to use powerful tools that are hidden from view, from accountability.
And the central allegation is they did find new uses.
That's what the evidence strongly suggests. That the stay-behind armies meant to fight a foreign occupier, allegedly turned inward, became tools for manipulating domestic politics in Western Europe.
Turned inward against their own countries.
Or at least against certain political movements within them. And nowhere was this alleged shift more intense, more visible, more tragic than in Italy.
Back to Italy, the battleground between left and right.
Precisely. The potential for these networks, skilled in sabotage, propaganda, covert ops, to be weaponized in internal politics was immense.
Skills easily repurposed to influence elections, discredit opponents.
Or even stir up social unrest. And the argument is this wasn't just a risk. It happened, leaving a trail of violence and deception.
This is where it gets really dark, isn't it? The strategy of tension.
Yes. The doctrine's so cynical, so cold.
Yeah.
It's hard to comprehend. The idea was carry out acts of extreme violence, bombings, assassinations.
And then blame them on your political enemies.
Exactly. Blame the left, usually. To manipulate public opinion, create so much fear and insecurity that people would accept authoritarian measures, military crackdowns, right-wing leadership.
All just to get order and security back.
Terrorism as a political weapon.
Yeah.
Calculated. A means to an end.
And Italy in the 1970s, the years of lead became the testing ground.
Tragically, yes. Look at the Piazza Fontana bombing in Milan, December 1969. A bomb in a busy bank kills 17, injures over 80.
Horrific.
And immediately, blame falls on anarchists, left-wing radicals. Headlines scream, communist plot.
But that wasn't the truth.
Much later, evidence pointed overwhelmingly to far-right extremists, with alleged disturbing ties to Italian intelligence and, through them, to Gladio elements.
The goal was to frame the communists, terrify the public.
That seems to be the chilling objective, push people away from the left towards law and order.
Then there was the Pitiano bombing in '72.
Another one, car bomb kills 3 policemen. Again, initial blame, Red Brigades, the far-left militants, fit the narrative perfectly.
But again, not the real story.
A decade later, a magistrate, Felice Casson, reopens the case, finds neo-fascists were responsible. But even worse, he found the original investigation was deliberately manipulated to blame the left. Evidence suppressed, false leads followed.
Manipulated by who? Elements within the state.
That was the strong implication. Police, intelligence, maybe even parts of the judiciary involved in a cover-up. It suggested the state itself was compromised.
That's terrifying. The protectors becoming part of the problem.
It left deep scars of distrust. And this pattern continued through the 70s. Bombings, assassinations, attempted coup.
Some by genuine leftists, but others
increasingly traced back to the far right, often with those alleged links to intelligence and Gladio. The line blurred completely. Was it extremist violence or state-sponsored manipulation?
Chaos with a purpose.
Or chaos allowed to happen, to drive Italy away from the left, keep it firmly pro-NATO. And this wasn't just Italy. The suspicion of Gladio involvement, or at least stay-behind networks influencing events, spread wider.
Beyond bombings.
Yes. Look at Greece in 1967, a military coup by right-wing colonels. Brutal dictatorship for 7 years. Later suggestions linked the coup to NATO, stay-behind planning.
So not just resisting invasion, but maybe shaping who is in power.
It raises that uncomfortable question. How prepared were they to intervene domestically to maintain ideological alignment?
And back in Italy, there was a coup attempt.
Italy, 1970. The Golpe Borghese, a direct attempt by far-right forces to seize power. It fizzled out last minute, but questions about Gladio's role linger.
Could these defensive forces have been involved in trying to overthrow their own government?
That's the deeply disturbing possibility, moving from defense to internal subversion.
And Turkey.
Turkey in the 70s. The Counter-Guerrilla network, integrated with stay-behind forces, implicated in brutal crackdowns on leftists, political violence, years of instability.
It's a recurring theme, isn't it? Defense blurring into repression.
Exactly. Networks designed for external defense, seemingly becoming tools for internal control, always with that anti-left bias.
And ordinary people were just caught in the middle, experiencing this violence.
Experiencing seemingly random terror, while governments pointed fingers, demanded more power, expanded security laws, all while these hidden armies might have been pulling strings in the shadows.
Which brings us to the biggest question. NATO and the CIA. What was their role in this alleged shift?
It's the toughest question. Did they know? Did they approve? There are two main arguments.
Okay, what's the first?
The first, often the official line, is that the CIA and MI6 set up the networks for defense, but then lost control. Local operatives, maybe those far-right recruits, went rogue, pursued their own agendas.
Plausible deniability, maybe.
Perhaps. But the second argument is darker. It suggests the U.S. and Britain tacitly supported, or at least turned a blind eye to, the shift.
Why would they do that?
Because they preferred violent instability, the strategy of tension, to the risk of communist parties winning power democratically in key European nations.
So fear of the ballot box was as strong as fear of tanks.
It seems that way. Better chaos than communists in government, even elected ones.
What makes that second argument seem credible?
Those coordinating committees. NATO's Clandestine Planning Committee, CPC, and the Allied Clandestine Committee, ACC, they oversaw stay-behind ops across all member states.
Reporting to NATO command.
Directly to shape NATO's military HQ in Europe. And crucially, documents show American and British officials regularly attended CPC and ACC meetings.
So if networks were going off mission, manipulating politics.
It's very difficult to believe Washington and London were entirely unaware. It raises profound questions about complicity at the highest levels. Did they know? Did they allow it?
Their silence fuels those questions.
Absolutely. The lack of transparency is deafening. All these tensions, these hidden activities, they finally burst into the open with one horrific event. The Bologna train station bombing, August 2nd, 1980.
The deadliest attack in post-war Western Europe.
A bustling station, summer holidays. Then 10:25 a.m. A massive explosion in a waiting room. Devastation.
How many killed?
85 people killed, over 200 injured, many horrifically. Just unimaginable carnage.
And the initial blame?
Predictably, swiftly pointed at leftist extremists. The Red Brigades. The narrative of a leftist plot was pushed hard, fueling fear.
The investigation
Took shocking turns. Painstaking forensic work, courageous magistrates. They uncovered undeniable links, not to the left, but to neo-fascist groups.
Like the NR.
Exactly. The Nuclei Armati Rivoluzionari. And disturbing contacts between them and parts of the military and intelligence services.
So Bologna wasn't random. It fit the pattern.
It confirmed the strategy of tension for many. A deliberate act to terrify the public, discredit the left, justify authoritarian responses. The evidence became undeniable.
And then came the bombshell admission.
October 24th, 1990. Italian Prime Minister Giulio Andreotti stood up in Parliament, And admitted it. Gladio existed.
Just like that, after decades of denial.
Just like that. Revealed Italy had maintained a secret stay-behind army since WWII, coordinated with the NATO and the CIA. For defense, he claimed, but the admission itself
sent shockwaves everywhere.
Across Italy, across Europe. What was dismissed as conspiracy theory was now documented fact, straight from the Prime Minister. The dam had broken.
And the reaction across Europe?
Immediate. Within weeks, Belgium and Switzerland admitted they had similar networks linked to NATO, Germany, France, others implicated. Parliamentary inquiries launched everywhere.
The true scale was finally coming out.
And new, disturbing details. In Belgium, links between stay-behind operatives and neo-Nazi groups. In Switzerland, those hidden arms caches became public knowledge, causing outrage.
Greece and Turkey.
Andreotti's admission gave chilling new weight to old whispers about coups and crackdowns there. It confirmed Gladio wasn't isolated, it was a continent-wide network.
Coordinated by NATO.
Through the CPC and ACC. And the pattern was chillingly consistent. Wherever Gladio existed, so did allegations of manipulation, violence, and authoritarian leanings.
Europeans had to confront the possibility that forces meant to protect them might have been used to subvert their own democracies.
Despite those admissions in 1990, so much remains hidden, doesn't it?
A huge amount. Classified documents, reports of files destroyed, witnesses silenced, national security invoked to keep things sealed.
And NATO and the CIA remained largely tight-lipped. Careful statements, but no real transparency.
Which leaves us with that core debate. Was Gladio a necessary evil, a justified defense against the Soviets?
Or was it something much more sinister? A tool for political control, undermining democracy from within.
The darker interpretation really gains weight when you look at the strategy of tension, the bombings.
It suggests Gladio wasn't just about defense. It was about control. Ensuring Western Europe stayed aligned with the US and UK, stayed moderate or right-leaning, even if it meant subverting democratic outcomes.
And the human cost. We can't forget that.
Never. Families in Bologna, Milan, Pitiano live shattered by bombs, never knowing the full truth. Communities living in fear.
The revelations were a vindication, maybe, but not justice.
Very little real justice. Few high-ranking officials held accountable. And Italian parliamentary reports themselves confirmed the strategy of tension was real, that men within state institutions deliberately created fear to weaken the left.
If elements within the state itself were involved, what does that say?
It raises profound questions about the integrity of those institutions, then and now.
So we circle back to the sword in the shadows, Operation Gladio, meant as a shield but became the symbol of how secrecy and fear can corrode democracy.
Shaping politics in ways the public never knew.
And its existence isn't speculation, it's documented fact. The debate is how far it went, what it truly became.
Beyond that initial defensive purpose, a haunting testament to the consequences of unchecked secret power, which leaves us with some deeply unsettling questions for today, doesn't it? Long after the Cold War supposedly ended.
Like, could similar networks exist now under different names?
In the shadows of 21st century geopolitics, have the tools of the strategy of tension just evolved into cyber warfare, disinformation, covert funding of extremists?
To achieve political ends in today's world.
And what does Gladio teach us about that fundamental tension? National security versus democratic principles, transparency, accountability.
The public's right to know.
If Gladio could operate in secret for decades, sometimes against the democracies it was meant to protect, what other secrets might still be hidden?
Waiting to be unearthed.
Until those remaining documents are unsealed, until we get full transparency, this haunting story, this reminder of secret wars waged against oneself, it's going to continue to resonate, isn't it?
A challenge to how we understand power, truth, and the real cost of secrets.